Howdy, I'm William Fitzgerald Cody, better known as Buffalo Bill. I'm here to share what I've learned about leadership as a man of the plains during America's expansion to the West, conquering and settling America from the Atlantic to the Pacific coast. I was born in 1846 and passed in January 1917. During my life, America grew economically while absorbing waves of immigrants who moved west as pioneers, needing assistance, providing immense opportunities for frontiersmen like me. During my life, Americans experienced the Civil War, Indian Wars, Spanish-American War, and achieved the fruits of the Industrial Revolution. People on the East Coast, where most of the population lived, embraced the frontier as strengthening American identity, democracy, and assimilation of arriving immigrants. I fed those notions for 3 decades. The public ate it up. On the plains, Indians experienced the loss of their way of life through deliberate destruction of buffalo herds and loss of lands to gold and silver rushes and settlers who pushed to the west. A change that did not go peacefully. Back on the East Coast, and then Europe, the public thirsted to know about life on the frontier. That need was first met through hugely popular dime novels, which heavily featured me. Then interest turned to the enactment of frontier stories on stage, on which I appeared. However, that still wasn't enough. The public wanted to touch and feel the frontier life. I provided that experience through my Wild West show, giving millions the sights, sounds, characters, animals, and specific scenes which we selected from the frontier. Conflict between Indians, cowboys, cavalry, performances with horses, buffaloes, stagecoaches, marksmanship exhibitions, and so much more. Of course, when it came to battles, Indians were the aggressors and losers, the exception being Custer's last stand at Little Bighorn. But that was followed by my reenactment of my role in getting the first scalp for Custer. The public absorbed and accepted what we presented in our Wild West show as reality. Our vision of the West persisted in media and the public well into the 20th century. I was instrumental in creating that vision. It made millions for my Wild West show and for me. However, as you will learn later, I did not hold on to my millions. 2 years before I died, I starred as a scout in what was that time was a new media, motion pictures. The movie was called Indian Wars. It premiered in 2 cities, but was then canned by the authorities because our movie presented too favorable an image of Indians. It was a tragic time for Native Americans who, by that time, had been herded onto reservations. Today, only a few minutes of Indian Wars exists, while Native Americans remain on the reservations. Volumes have been written about me. I have a museum in Cody, Wyoming, also named after me, the Cody Center. However, very little and nothing in specific about my leadership. I have detractors, and I admit that despite, or perhaps because of my fame, I had flaws, infidelity, and drank too much. According to some, I suffered from insanity, not just acting, but assuming my mythical show character in everyday life. Further, detractors claim I was just a frontman for my publicists, while others who worked for me later claimed it was their leadership responsible for our success. I am not deterred by detractors, past or present. By participating in this series, I want you to be the judge, whether what I share is of assistance to you in meeting your aspirations. I will be watching. So, how are we going to proceed? I've divided this series into phases. These are my youth, my years scouting, my days on stage, my Wild West show days, and long fade into the shadows. My youth covers the first 11 years of my life with my family moving to and living on the frontier. I was born in Iowa, lived in Toronto for a few years, then moved to Kansas, where my childhood abruptly ended with the death of my father at age 11. I learned many skills, including the use of a rifle, horsemanship, interacting with people, friendly and hostiles, both Indians and fellow settlers, and so much more. As for my scouting days, I will share my experiences and adventures. There were many. Some grew in the telling over time. I will discuss the friends and contacts I made, like Wild Bill Hitchcock, and in the cavalry, journalists and writers who wrote about me, who formed my supportive network essential to my success. My way of life on the plains, setting the table for others to meet their objectives, settlers, or those building the railroad, or the cavalry tasked with taming the West. Then I'll discuss my years on stage, where I learned that being myself was of more value than trying to master a script. Some say that it was because too often I was drunk or without sleep. From there, we'll move to my role in my Wild West show, testing existing leadership skills and requiring mastery of new ones, like meeting the expectations of audiences, the use of publicity, of logistics, and managing a diverse cast of plainsmen, cowboys, Indians, and later, an international cast. I learned how to make money. However, successfully investing what I earned eluded me, and by the end of my life, my family wondered how they were going to pay for my funeral. Notwithstanding, I had a grand funeral, but there was some controversy over where I was buried. I'll end with my long fade, during which I had many goodbye performances, living through the transition from Wild West shows to movies. Summarize the impact I had on America's perception of the West. I'm proud that during my life, I never lost my self-awareness of being a man of the plains, where I found and maintained my roots, where I found peace, even in the darkest of times. So I hope you will join me in this journey through my life. What I learned about leadership, most importantly, that it proves useful to your own. Until next time, I wish you happy trails.